I think that we think it's years past the crisis, but we really have not ever addressed it. What we're trying to do in our group is to bring people together to heal. And I think it's important that a lot of people who left the church over this issue to have a place to belong, to start their re-entry, their re-belonging, to celebrate their baptism. I think that it's not so much that it was a long time ago, and I don't think we should ever forget it. I don't think we should ever say, well, that's over with now, but rather that we continue forever to protect the children.
Well, I think it's important to talk about it now. All my abuse occurred over 60 years ago. But my son is also a survivor of clergy abuse, and it happened while he was going to high school for 4 years. And sadly, he took his life last year, could never get beyond it. So we have lost so many people because of the secrecy and, in all honesty, the church's position on protecting the image of the church as opposed to the children. And when we remained silent, I mean, I kept secrets for years. All my brothers and sisters kept these secrets for years. John kept it until he was 26 years old.
If there's a person out there who has never told anyone about his or her abuse, I would suggest that you find someone you trust, and start there. You might not want to tell the whole story, but just to begin to let it out. Don't forget, I'm 67 now. I was abused first when I was very young, 6 or 7, and then again when I was 13 and 14 by the same priest. I didn't tell anybody until I was in my 40s. So it's taken a lot of us a very long time. So there's no time requirement. Just come and know that we have a place.
Sure, as a survivor of sexual abuse myself, it's important to have this discussion even now, many years down the road from the actual abuse, because we need to remember that if we don't try to understand why it happened in the first place, if we don't try to understand the importance of protecting our own children now and going forward, and really making ourselves aware of the resources that are available within our diocese in order to protect our children, then, we're going to lose the opportunity.
I think that it's important to keep the conversation going because we haven't been heard by everyone that needs to hear the message, as well as the fact that there are so many people out there that have not come forward yet. And unless you come forward, in my opinion, and go through this process, you cannot go over it, you cannot go under it, you cannot go around it. You need to go through the process in order to heal yourself, to find where you want to be and where peace and comfort lies within you.
I think it was Bishop's open and genuine feeling about, you aren't to blame. We need to help you get back your faith or get back to church on your terms. And I think that opening the door for me, that really helped. But it also was my own personal choice, saying, you know what, I'm not going to let them take my faith from me, my relationship with God. That's what's taken from you as a child. I thought God didn't love me. I thought, I must have done something really bad for this to have happened.
I did not, when I was abused, tell anyone. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I didn't think anyone would believe me. I was 16 years old. I didn't have the confidence in myself that people would believe me, or why would they listen to me over him? They loved him. He was one of those priests that just everybody loved when they got to Mass and he was doing the speaking. So why would anybody take my word over his? My faith in God never wavered. I just felt God was my best friend. He held my hand through every trial, tribulation that I had. So it didn't have anything to do with my faith in God. That was always very strong, and I felt it very important to bring my children up to see that and feel it as well. My faith in the church was not there. I did not trust them.
How can you, as someone who's a member of church, or maybe even someone who's not a member of the church, how can you help someone like myself, a survivor, heal? How can you help the church heal? Well, one of the most important things that you can do to help us heal is to really ask yourself, force yourself in a way to, again, consider the importance of this particular trauma that visited itself on the church. The church has done a lot of work in order to overcome this trauma, to really deal with it, to help us moving forward, to put things in place, programs in place to absolutely minimize as much as humanly possible abuse from ever happening going forward. In order for that to really happen, it takes the cooperation of everyone in the church and even those outside of the church to have eyes that want to see if something doesn't look quite right, to have a voice to report it, because often young children in particular have no real capacity to speak for themselves and aren't sure of what's happening to them either. So that's why it's important for all of us to continue to cooperate and to do our part.
The church is the people of God, and Jesus said we invite everybody to be part of this. And I used to teach a course in death and dying, and one of the things I would say to the kids, I know what God is going to ask you when you get to the pearly gates. And they'd say, okay, what is it? And I'd say, did you become the person that God created you to be? Our group, and hopefully the clergy included and everyone else that's concerned, will help people become the person God created them to be. Now that, it's certainly the abused, but also the perpetrators of the abuse. Can they work through something? Can they finally find in their lives and admit what they did and somehow ask God to forgive them? And we know that God forgives. And is there still time for them to become the person God created them to be?